right in. And so what? Tell me about that self-esteem. How does that? How has your self-esteem grown since you were young and you was in traumatic situations in a traumatic environment, and now you're successful um, writer actor. Could you walk us through that process?
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, it's kind of heavy, man. It's, as a kid, I was always, I was beat for everything, everything. I used to get beat for everything. I think like my mom specifically, she, that's all she grew up with was her dad beating her for everything and telling her that she's not good enough to follow her passion. She was a painter. She was a brilliant painter who um who ended up getting a scholarship, or like a 2-year scholarship to SUNY, I think Pulse or something like that. And her dad told her, no, you're gonna go to school for business and accounting. And that's what happened. And now she's in a profession where it's not her passion at all, not something she enjoys, but she's good at it.
Yeah.
And I think that she was told, that who she is good enough, like by her own father. And it wasn't like a conscious thing. Like he probably was doing the best he could to prepare his daughter to survive. You know what I mean? In a world where it's you gotta fight for your survival, especially you don't like the all-American person, So I think unconsciously, like she and my dad left when I was 3 years old, and my mom had to raise. She had me. She was pregnant. She was pregnant at the time as well. My older sister was there, so that's 2 kids and pregnant. Father's gone, and I look just like my father. So that didn't help at all, which is stuff that I'm writing about. And so all these things, man, like I couldn't make a move. I couldn't make a move without fucking up. And so I would go to school, and at that time I was smaller than everybody else, so I would get bullied. I would be told that I was ugly, like the kids at school would tell me that I'm like the ugliest kid they ever seen. They would call me Goya Bean, which is where I took. That's me reclaiming my power back. Is how I took. Yeah. In middle school, in elementary, middle school, they used to call me Goya Bean. So, and in high school is when I took the name back. I took the name because I looked up Francisco Goya and read his story about this painter in the late 17th, early 1800s whose work just depicted the atrocities of war between the Spanish and the French, and the way he depicted the upper class, and he was persecuted for it. And I don't know, I just vibed with it. I'm like, if I'm gonna keep his name, it's gonna be mine. But yeah, like growing up, between the violence at home, between the violence when I would go to school, always between the mental abuse everywhere, I just really didn't think much of myself at all. To the point where there was a point where I snapped as a kid. Like I think I was like 8 I was in 8th grade. By this time, I got been picked on by a lot of different people. And this one kid, like I go to sit down on this chair at the desk, and this kid tries to pull it from me. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I was here first. He's like, nah. So we over here fighting for the chair. I go to sit down, and he take the chair, and I bust my ass. And as an instinct, I get up and bah, back, like just cracked him twice in the face. And I was I mean, he after that he put his head down on the desk and started crying, you know, and the people in the classroom saw it, and it was the first time that I had gotten recognition as somebody who
not getting bullied, but bully now.
yeah. So it was like it was like I was like, oh shit, like it felt good. It felt good to finally not be the one to get down. And then the next year was high school, so it was like on the bottom of the food chain again, right? But the same thing happened. I lost. What ended up happening is there was I said like a darkness in me that kind of just took over because it wasn't being acknowledged. So it just had it responded on its own, and to the point where I started blacking out. Like people started. I remember one kid. I think I was in 10th grade. I was in 10th grade, and this one kid. He's walking by down the hallway, and he's with his girl. And as I'm walking, I'm by. I like to look people in the eye. I've always liked to look people in the eye because I like to acknowledge people. You know, I think that people are deserving. Some people view it as a threat. I get it, and it's gotten me in trouble sometimes. But I don't know. I like to be looked in the eye. You know what I mean? And so I acknowledged him and his girl, and he goes, "Yo, what the fuck you looking at my girl for?" I wasn't looking at her like that, bro. He's like, "Yeah, you was," and he started talking shit. So I was like, "Whatever, man." I start walking away. He comes up to me, and he like pushes me mad hard to the point like if he had balled up his fist, he would have punched me. And all I remember is blacking out. I black out. I come back into, and all of a sudden there's like 3 security guards where he's at. I'm standing over here. There's other dude standing over there. He's like, "Yo, you just knocked the fuck out, bro." I'm like, and I didn't remember. That's when I started realizing that this was a problem.
Yeah,
like a problem, you know, like you know.
Good claims your power, but now as an adult, you're learning that I don't want to wait till something makes me black out for me to reclaim my power. You know, how can I recognize?
Yeah, you know, I think that there's a part of yeah, and there's a part of me that was just tired of following this narrative that I'm small, that I'm nothing, that I'm just, you know, like I'm helpless.
Yeah,
you know, and that darkness, I've been on a journey trying to understand it, trying to give it a platform where it feels like it can reveal itself, so that we don't have to wait until I black out for it to say what it wants to say, you know.
I like. You mind if I jump in real quick? Just your inspiring thought. You know, you make me, first of all, you make me think of Robert A. Moore's book, Owning the Shadow. So sometimes that frustration or anger, that insecurity and doubt that we have, we turn our back to it. From what you're saying, you don't turn your back to it no more. You face it, and you have that that conversation. And that shadow is not an enemy. Probably it's more a part of you that wants to be expressed, wants to be heard, and wants to be like the rest of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a double thing. I think the even before that, the most important, and I'll just speak for myself, the most important entry point to even start the process or be in that process is to being willing to acknowledge your own darkness, regardless if people have to know it or not. Like, you know, this is one quote that I read somewhere, and it's always stood with me ever since I read it. I don't know who said it, but it's like, acknowledge your secrets. You know, like you have to, even if you never say it to another living word, like you have to be able to look in the mirror and to say it to yourself and to acknowledge it yourself, so that at that point, then it becomes a conversation between you and that darkness. Then you can start the dialogue. You know, otherwise, if you don't, you're pretending to yourself. You're pretending, and that never works out.
Nope.
I know, you know. Um, um, so and you know, there's things that I'm writing right now that has taken me years to find my own, um, find the courage to be able to acknowledge, you know, like things about my own trauma, my own abuse, things about how it's affected, my relationships, you know, things about how it's affected my psychology. You know, like as a kid, I was I've gone through a lot of sexual abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and and it I end up having thoughts that a lot of time I'm like, yo, is this based off of who I am, or is it grounded inside of the trauma that happened, or is it an amalgamation of the two? You know, like how do I get to the core of this? And so I've I've had to be okay um, with being at peace inside of the question and not always having to know
Yeah.
the answer. You know what I mean? Like that's been my teacher. That's another thing my teacher used to say is like, yo, you know, acting is about living in the question.
Mm.
Um, not knowing
Mm-hmm.
not knowing the answer ahead of time. Like, um, and
Sounds,
you know,
sounds known.
huh?
Sounds like same statement. I hear it as walking into the unknown. You know, leaving
Mhm.
that comfortable area of the answer and walking into the question and not really knowing, but you're still going to walk that path.
Like you can answer the question and your body, let your body find the answer. Like it's not about your mind trying to logically break it down in fragments that it can understand. You know, you ask the question, and then as you're asking the question, your body is having its own experience, and so let that kind of be the where you get the what you're looking for, you know.
So the visceral relation you're having, it's like when you talk about the body, you're talking about all of you now. You're going to that emotional intelligent part, that mindfulness and awareness.
Mhm, mhm. um yeah, I think so that's I think the original question you were asking too is like what why I don't remember.
It's all good. In the beginning, I tied it to your writing. Then you alluded to I alluded to expressing the darkness and um,
Right, right.
why stuff. So it sounds like your art is more than just a profession that you're seeking. It sounds to me like it's a calling. It's something
Well,
deep.
yes, the way I saved my own life. It's the way
That's
I saved my own life. Like I get emotional just thinking about it. You know what I mean? Because my craft is that important to me. Like it gives me a sense of worth that I've been looking for my whole life. You know, and I didn't really realize it until I was in school and I went to do my master's. And you know, I thought I was just going to this acting school, and it was way more than that. It was way
mm,
more than that. It was just you know, channeling characters in order to truthfully tell uh, the story at its core involves
mm,
you giving parts of yourself and revealing
mm,
yourself that maybe you weren't expecting to.
mm, mm.
Um, uh, when
What
I was
made you go to acting school? What was the decision that brought you to graduate school? Um,
Well, I mean, I guess there's the surface one, and then and then there's the one that underneath, right? The surface one is this girl. This girl was fucking fine as hell, son. I met her at a step show at Columbia. Fun little thing. And we was dancing. It was just great. And she invited me to this play, and I went to see it. It's called Plátanos and Collard Greens,
yeah,
and it was good. She was good.
yeah.
You know, I'm putting the work in, so I go a second time, and uh, and she played a different role, and I had a different experience, and
Mm,
I was so fascinated. Like, how can I watch a play two different times and have two different experiences? And I was so intrigued by that. And so And at this time, I was working. The second part of the answers is at this time I was working. I had already graduated with my bachelor's in music, but I wasn't really doing much with it. I was working at the YMCA as a health director, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. And so it was happening during that time where I was searching for more. Like I needed more of
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that on stage, I was like, yo, I could. This is something that I can get down with. And so I hit up my brother Javier,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, he told.
We interviewed last week. He was
Yeah, he was telling me that was when you guys talked for a while. Um, so yeah, I was like, yo, I want to audition for this program, and I knew he's the only director I knew, so he helped me. He helped me for like 2 weeks, and and before anything, I was a slam poet, so I approached it initially as a poet, and people were like, yeah, he like my other brother's like, yeah, you can't do that.
different rules here.
Can't do that because it sucks. It's really bad if you do that. He told me straight up. He's like, yo, that was terrible. But if he did it, thank God he did, because when I went up there, I did my thing on stage, and so did Hav, and it was my first audition ever, and that's how we got in, and it ended up, oh man, it blew me away how how much it demanded of me.
Mm.
Not just physically, but I was just like, it demanded. It started off with integrity first. It's like, yo, you got, if you're late more than twice, it's an absence.
Mm.
If you're absent, twice, it goes down a whole letter grade.
Mm.
If you're absent each time after, it's a whole other letter grade. And so it instilled the urgency and importance about what I'm doing from the get. And then the classes were so rich, from voice and movement to the actual acting class, to we would have these great workshops with different people in the field that just had these exercises that so creatively engaged my body, that before I realized that I was engaging in a holistic spiritual practice without even realizing it. Because about it, like channeling another character and its whole and that person's whole psychology and that whole person's life, and letting you use your body to tell that story. Like you gotta get out the way in order for that to happen.
What do you mean by get out the way? Who has to get out the way?
Well, the part in you that says that this can't happen, or that you're not good enough, or that, and like all the other parts of you that have built into you in order to survive a certain moment in your life, which maybe it served you somewhere, some other time in life, but now this is another avenue. This is another place.
You have to make space for that.
You gotta let it be like, yo, you served me at one point, but for this moment, I need you to just step aside, and we can pick it back up once we walk out the door.
Was that your shadow you were talking to when you said?
Yeah, for sure.
I heard.
And one time I was out. Oh, that's what it was. I was working on this play called Extremities, and with Hav, and it was like towards the beginning. It was like a second year of our program, and we had just started working on the play. And basically, just so you know, the play is about this man, Raul, who comes in. He shows up at this house, and he's looking for somebody, and the woman doesn't. He's like, there's nobody here by that name, and so you think at first that he's mistaken, but then you realize now he's actually exactly where he wants to be. And, trying to rape her for the first half of the play, and then she takes advantage of a situation and ends up for the rest of the play torturing him in the fireplace.
I remember now because I was very afraid for her when I
Oh,
was watching.
so
First time you
it's
had one of your graduate classes when you had to put on a play, I believe, right?
right.
Yeah.
So when we first started rehearsing the play, whenever we got to the rape scene, it was just hard for me to do it.
Satori, success.